Hello and welcome to this meeting of the Planning and Development Council of the Town of Oakville. Madam Clerk, do we have any regrets this evening?
Yes, Councillor Longo.
And thank you very much. Now, I just need to get to my page. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Madam Clerk, I'm not seeing any. Would two of us like to move in second, resolving into committee of the whole? Councillor McNeese, Councillor Chisholm, thank you for that. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Now, Council, I've had an indication that 4.2, there's a desire to separate that for a modification. Can I have a mover for the remainder of the consent items? Councillor Adams, thank you. Is there any objection to that? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, the consent items, except for 4.2, are adopted. Councillor Haslet-Thiel, 4.2.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. Just some questions in regards to the documents that we are now going to approve. I just want to make sure I have them in front of me. I just want clarity, and I think Mr. Sunderland is online. When we talk about a 51% increase in our annual housing, I just want to be clear. In the chart on the report, which is page 4 of the housing report, there's a chart that shows Halton's official plan, and then it shows the housing pledge. For clarity, we've been told several times that the housing pledge is not additive to our required Halton population, but rather an accelerator. So when I look at this chart, what is the average number of units we will need to build? Is it the combination of what is on page 4?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, the provincial housing pledge that we've signed up for is 3,300 units per year total to achieve that. So it's not additive to the number above. So it's just saying under the Halton Region official plan for the per year average was 2,240, but and that's a 20-year average. But to do the 10 years under the provincial pledge, which is to 2031, it's 3,300 a year. So it's just accelerating the number of units earlier, pushing them forward.
Okay. And are we tracking them at all separately, or are we just counting the number of housing starts versus, so pledge and total population, or total number of, total population? Are we just tracking housing starts against the pledge?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, we're tracking housing starts regardless to understand how many housing starts we're going to be getting per year. Perhaps Director Charles can expand on that if we're using that for, I mean, we're using it for everything that we're going to be doing, be it to achieve the pledge, achieve the Halton Regional Official Plan goal, or for other items such as federal funding programs or provincial funding programs. We're tracking for all of that. So perhaps Director Charles can expand.
No, I think I have what I need.
Okay.
So my next part is on 1.5 in the report, it says this will ensure housing policies apply to all land use designations. Can you just explain in more detail, will there be a differentiation between urban and neighborhood differences? Do I need to find you the page number?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, are you speaking to action item 1.5?
I believe it is action item 1.5.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. So in regard to housing policies applying town-wide, they would apply for, so right now we obviously have residential land use designations, which are residential. And we also have mixed use designations, which also contemplate residential uses. And so having general policies in section C of the official plan would provide for a housing framework that would apply to anything that provided residential uses, no matter the land use designation. So right now, we have housing policies that speak to housing only in the land use designation specifically to residential land uses, but we need to consider some of those policies also for mixed use designations because they also allow for residential uses. So we need to speak about housing more generally and more broadly than just the land use.
But this is not an instruction to say that a neighborhood designation would be changed, or that the governing okay, all right, I just wanted to be clear. And then on 4.1, you state a minimum target for Bronte, and I'm wondering, is there a reason we have not, after all we've been through on minimum targets, et cetera, that we're not establishing a density target, not just a minimum?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor, if I could get some more clarity as to what 4.1 is in reference to.
It states the minimum, it's no different than what happens on Midtown. What is the minimum density that you will aim, that is required? And my question is, we use this, I can appreciate you need to state a minimum, but knowing that we never stick to the minimum, should we be instead talking about establishing a density target? So there's transparency to the residents about what could happen on those lands.
To you, councillor, through the mayor. So action item 4.10, which speaks to the Bronte Grove major transit station area, it already has an established policy framework approved by council under official plan amendment 41, which speaks to a minimum a density target of 150 people and jobs combined per hectare, and that was passed to conform to the growth plan. And now is, the growth plan is no longer, and now we have the provincial policy statement, or provincial planning statement rather, which has new targets. But those policies are already in place and approved. So that particular action item is speaking to the implementation studies that are still needing to take place to put those policies to the test to ensure that the functional needs can be met. So from a transportation study assessment to make sure that the transportation system is appropriately responding, as well as an area servicing plan for water and wastewater services, as well as an environmental assessment piece. So those studies still need to be underway, similar to what has taken place for Midtown Oakville, some of the more technical aspects.
Okay. My point is that we have a housing strategy, and yet we continue to talk about a minimum and not share a range. But I take your point that it's already carved in. At the appropriate time, I would like to suggest an amendment on Goal 6. And Goal 6 currently, for the public, Goal 6 currently reads, work with agency partners and other levels of government to achieve the goal of creating more housing while ensuring growth is contextually appropriate, environmentally and fiscally responsible. And one of the concerns that I feel as a councillor we need to be aware of and mitigate against is what do we mean by contextually appropriate? And so my suggestion is that the amendment would suggest work with agency partners and other levels of government to achieve the goal of creating more housing while ensuring growth is contextually appropriate, including assessing capacity based on the developable land area and density range, and is environmentally and fiscally responsible. And the reason I speak to that is the developable land area is a critical piece of the puzzle and in assessing capacity, and having a density range is really important in terms of trust and transparency in what we are trying to achieve. I'm open to a different definition of what is contextually appropriate, but it's general, the original statement leaves open, are you going to consider the developable land area and the density range that is appropriate? And that's why I'm tabling that.
Well, Councillor, you've made the motion for the amendment, and based on what you just said, if you look at your proposed language, do you think, do you want appropriate as a modifier before density range?
I'd be happy with that advice.
All right, so that's a motion. It now takes precedence over other matters. There's no seconder required. Is there discussion of the amendment? Let me clear my screen so I can see any. Councillor Elgar, are you a speaker to this?
On a different issue.
Well, you'll have to wait. Yep. Councillor Haslett-Deal, your hand is up. I don't know whether what you intend there. I think you've explained it well. Councillor Elgar, I won't forget you if your hand goes down. I would just ask the planning director for any comment on this, and if he has any advice on the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe the amendment to the goal is something that we can continue to work with. It's fine in this case to provide a little bit more clarity around the intent of the goal.
Okay. Thank you. May I put the vote? Does anyone object to the amendment? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, the amendment carries. Are there any other amendments for the matter or other speakers for the matter? Councillor Elgar, I promised you that you could be next.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton, a little bit different. When I look at this report, Housing Strategy and Action Plan the town has prepared, and I recognize they did say in the last meeting we had about it, where I referred to the regional report from our CAO at the region with some other information, and I guess a motion was not put in to make it a little more specific. But if I just go to 3.6 of the report, the town uses a figure of affordability of $541,900, whereas the regional report has a number of $531,900. And I wasn't specific at the last because I thought staff would go back and take a good look at what the report said, the September 18th report. But nothing got changed in the final report. And also in the region's report, what they say, an appropriate household has 3 bedrooms. And if you read that report, a 3-bedroom house affordability is $709,800. And that only 4 units in all of Oakville of new home sales for new homes were at that level, or 0.3%. Out of 1,246 new residences, only 4 met the threshold below $709,800. I think it would be good to be, this information I was hoping would have been in the report, the State of Housing report the town has, because it's kind of shocking, but people later on, they won't be able to correlate it. And it bothers me.
Councillor, can I try to help you? On page 9 of the actual plan, under 3.6, there's a discussion of the Halton State of Housing report. It's incorporated by reference, I would suggest, and we could, we could include the entire thing, or we can just refer to it, but.
I just feel it would have been so much better to have it in writing that in Oakville, in Halton region, only 0.4 of the units being built in a year are affordable, if you consider a 3-bedroom residence affordable. And of course, none were houses or semis or anything. Everyone was a condo, and that's all.
would you like to amend it and put that remark in?
I would. I would appreciate that.
Do you want to write that out for the clerk?
Yeah, I will. But that's gonna, even if the word for word, I can do it very short. I'll get the clerk to help me to make sure it's concise, though. Or actually, the planning director can probably help me more.
All right, well, would you like to start and then let them help you after they've
Yep.
seen your concept?
Yeah.
And then we'll turn to other speakers and come back to you. Councillor Adams?
I promise I'll be very, very quick. I was only going to thank our staff for the changes to 6.5. We took the time ahead of time before the meeting to make this wording work out for us, and so we appreciate the refocusing of 6.5 to expedite the delivery of student housing on the Sheridan campus lands. So that's much appreciated. We look forward to that work.
All right. I'm sure everybody appreciates the compliment and the foresight. Councillor Elgar, I propose that we set 4.2 aside until we're ready, and we'll move along to item 5. So in item 5, Council, you have, for 5.1 and 5.2, you have legal department reports, which I believe you could support without going into camera to discuss them. And if I'm correct, I would accept a motion to adopt the recommendations in 5.1 and 5.2. Councillor Chisholm, thank you. Is there any objection? Councillor Haslet-Deal.
I do have one question. I don't think I need to go in camera for that question.
Well, you have the floor.
Has CH been consulted on this, on 5.1?
And Mr. Carr volunteers, the town solicitor volunteers to answer you.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I wonder if Nadia Chandra
She's right
is
there.
available online. Oh, there she is in person. Even better. Thank you.
Ms. Chandra, welcome to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. I apologize, Councillor Haslet-Thiel. I do not know the answer to your question, but I will speak with the planner on file to see if CH was consulted.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor. So I have a motion. Is there any objection to Councillor Chisholm's motion for 5.1 and 5.2? Madam Clerk, none being seen, they're carried. Now I'd like to, there's another one. Where did it go? I've got 5. I've got 6. All right, we're on to the public hearing item. This is the public hearing item on the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment applications for Dan Baba Buddha G. Gurdwar Sahib, and that's the file numbers OPA 1430.34 and zoning 1430.34. Members of the public can call in to ask questions or raise comments by phoning 905-815-6095, and they'll be brought into the meeting and allowed to speak after the existing delegations. Council Riley McKnight of staff is available for questions, and we have delegations to present the matter to you. I should add at this point that council and public, this is the public information meeting. It's not a decision night. This is where we attempt to build the list of possible issues for the planning staff to consider in forming their eventual recommendation report. So this is the night when, in the name of efficiency, it's best to just name your issue as opposed to conduct an argument about it, because all you have to do to get your issue on the list is name it. But we're going to start off with a presentation from Len Radomski of Ruth Victor and Associates and Harpreet Bonds of TechnoArc. And after that, we'll continue with delegations. So is Len here? Len, we are all eyes and ears and looking forward to your presentation.
Next slide, please. Click it. Thank you. There we go. I'm presenting this evening. Can you hear me? Into the microphone, that helps everyone. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm speaking about 2403 and 2417 Khalsa Gate. It's located at the corner of Khalsa Gate and Pine Glen Road, which is in the neighborhood of Bronte Road on Dundas Street West. Oh, I apologize. The proposal we are putting before you this evening is an expansion of the existing Gurdwara.
Len, I don't think anyone can hear you at home.
Not at all.
So if you can, you can twist the end of it there so that it points at your mouth.
Okay, thank you.
And also, I believe you can see your presentation up here.
Yes, I can.
So you could actually, you could be more comfortable than you're being.
Okay, thank you. So the Sikh Cultural Association of Oakville is proposing to expand their existing temple and to meet the needs of its growing congregation. The existing building is 5,600 square feet, and it will be expanded to 21,676 square feet. The zoning requirement for parking is approximately 250 spaces, and we are presenting 257 spaces, including 9 accessible spaces. We are also proposing landscape improvements, which will add canopy coverage and new landscaping borders along Pine Glen and along Khalsa Gate. We're also providing an addition of stormwater management facilities on site. Here's a concept rendering of the building from Khalsa Gate. So it will be expanding. The existing building is on the right-hand side, and it will be expanded with what you see where the main tower is towards the left-hand side. You can see on the site plan in the shaded area where it says existing building, that is the current building, and the proposed expansion of the facility surrounds that to the east and to the north. You'll see along Pine Glen and along Khalsa Gate the landscaping that's being proposed. Currently, there is landscaping and some small outbuildings around the site. Those will be demolished and replaced with the landscaping you see. For the official plan amendment, a place of worship is permitted under the official plan. We need a site-specific amendment to address surface parking, which is not permitted to be more than 50% on the lot. The proposed building shall not be subject to the minimum height requirements. The expansion of surface parking area shall be subject to site plan approval and provide for enhanced streetscape improvements along Khalsa Gate. And the last amendment would be the extension of Barronwood Drive not be required. Now, for our zoning bylaw amendment, a site-specific zoning amendment is required for the following provisions. A, All required parking may be surface parking notwithstanding the zoning bylaw regulation that 50% of the required parking be within a structure. B, the building height minimum of 1 story, whereas the community use is a higher building height. Part C, minimum landscape buffer along Pine Glen will be a minimum of 1.02 meters. And D, minimum landscape buffer abutting any residential use will be reduced to 3.2 meters. We held a public information meeting on the 26th of August. Councilors and members of the public living within 300 meters of the site excuse me, were mailed notices pursuant to the town and provincial planning requirements. No members of the public attended this virtual meeting. However, comments were received by email and were addressed in the submission. And to conclude, the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the Region of Halton official plan, and conforms to the Livable Oakville plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Now, do I understand that Megan Burkett desires to delegate as well? Welcome, Ms. Burkett. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, town councilors. I live in the area of Bronte and Dundas, very close to this development. In fact, so we're about 2 streets in from where this proposed development is to be expanded. And actually, my children's bus stop is basically diagonal to this development. There's a park at Pine Glen and Grand Oak, and there's a park there, and my children's bus stop is at kind of the far end of the park. So this is an area we frequent regularly. We pass by this building every day, and it's also a place where my children walk home from school. So we do have some concerns and questions with the proposed development. When we moved into the area so we've lived there in this area for about 8 years now, and there was a small place of worship on this property. And I would say that the proposed expansion would be a significant change from what's currently in place. And also it appears to be like a significant size increase compared to other places of worship that you'd find in our residential area. So just a few points on that. And so some of my points are taken from the transportation. There's kind of 2 different resources that were provided as to number of patrons and size. So just one of them is sorry for the delay, the Paradigm did a transportation impact and parking study, and then there's other information from the presentation that just occurred. So according to the materials, the place of worship is built for 250 individuals to use the place of worship at a current square footage of 5,605. So then they're seeking a request for 400 persons with an expansion of, this was in the parking paper, 35,288 square feet. So that to me seems like a very significant expansion. So I'm seeking additional information on what the long-term projection is of persons who would use the facility, because when you go from 250 persons to 400 persons, I don't understand the significant increase in size. I would be interested to know, well, what is the anticipated number of persons who would use the facility in 5 years, in 10 years? Is the parking appropriate for the number of anticipated persons that plan to use the facility? So I'd be interested in those projections as opposed to the number of persons who would use the facility when it's first built. I am also concerned about the number of parking spots, because if those aren't sufficient, then they'd go, the surrounding area would be used for parking. And it is becoming an increasingly busy area. There's towards Brawny, there are condos there, but then on the other side of it, it is all residential homes, a lot of townhomes and single dwelling homes. So that didn't appear to be fully reflected in the reports. I think there's just mention of kind of the properties that are directly surrounding the property. So the area of the community didn't appear to be fully reflected in the reports when I read those, just as someone who lives there. And then also, so the size and then the height, I was just seeking additional clarification on the height and how that may impact the surrounding area with all the homes, which would be lower in size than this proposed building. And so just getting an understanding on, yes, like the area, increased traffic, the key times of traffic and how that will impact with like schools getting out and children walking home and the use of, parks in the neighborhood. And just kind of the projected growth, I think, is really important for our community to understand what the anticipated needs would be over the years.
Well, thank you very much for adding your issues to the list. There may well be some of those already on the list because of your quote of some of the material, but what happens, because I don't think you've participated in this kind of meeting before, the planning director and his staff keep track of the issues that are brought forward, and at the end, the planning staff read out the issues collected and they add them to the issues they've already identified in the report, and we receive that information. And after I don't know how long it'll be, but usually it's a couple of months, a recommendation report comes back that seeks to address all the issues that we've identified. So thanks very much for coming.
Okay, thank you.
I'll poll the audience for any other delegations. Going once, going twice. I don't believe we've had a phone-in volunteer. Councillor Elgar, do you have an issue to add?
I just would ask that staff comes back with something in writing regarding the extension or non-extension of Barronwood. Like, this is not a new item. It's been there. I got documentation going back to 2007 was the last, and then in 2019 there was more about land swaps, and if we can get that cleaned up, because I think we all know Barronwood. I don't have any residents asking for the road to go through because everyone knows that'll be a cut-through road, and so I'm hoping that'll be resolved too when the report comes back from staff. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor.
I would be more than willing to say I'll receipt.
All right, let's get planning. I understand Riley McKnight is going to read the comments, the issues that we've added tonight.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Burton. The comments and questions we have heard raised today will form our issues list that will be addressed through the future recommendation report. Matters I have recorded for the issues list includes to provide for the history and rationale related to the Barronwood Drive extension, provide the long-term projection of the number of people using the place of worship, and provide more details on whether parking is appropriate.
I believe there was also a desire for discussion about the height.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. That will be added to the issues list as well.
All right. We have a motion from Councillor Elgar to receive. Councillor Chisholm and Councillor O'Meara, you're next before we pass that motion or debate it. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question back for staff to probably investigate. Just through experience, I'm finding some of our places of worship are no longer local or neighborhood or community. They're more of a regional access for worshiping. And we've echoed this with Dar Foundation on Morden Road has become with a traffic problem and parking and so forth. They're not just coming from Oakville, they're coming from everywhere. And I'm just wondering if there's a way we can measure the worshipers, what areas of the municipality or the region region they're coming from, because I think it puts a lot of pressure on the neighborhood communities when you have large areas or large facilities for worshiping that it doesn't how I say blend in or in the existing neighborhood, and it creates traffic problems and security problems with dangerous driving and whatever the case may be. We've witnessed this with our foundation, and I understand, we try our best to accommodate it, but I'm just anticipating the future that this would be a lot of pressure in the neighborhood if we have, you're going from 5,000 to, I think it was 15,000. I'm sorry, I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but it's a large, so I think what they're looking at for expansion to bring in more worshipers, because I think that I believe what happens is they're consolidating rather than having small worship facilities across the GTA. It would seem that they're consolidating into one large one, and I think that's an excellent idea, but I'm not sure this neighborhood could accommodate that kind of traffic issues and so forth. So I just leave that. So if staff could look at if there's any way we can measure what type of access we're having and where they're coming from, would be great information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chisholm. Ms. McKnight, you captured that?
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton, that has been added to the issues list as well. Thank you.
Councillor O'Meara, your turn.
Thank you. And just one other aspect to add to the list. I know in my conversations with Gurdwara, they had questions about ownership over and responsibility over the operation and maintenance of lands. Should they be given over to the public? And can we just be could we get some clarification on if easements are given or taken, who's responsible for the maintenance and operation over those lands as well if they become public? I think there were some conversations or concerns about that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Ms. McKnight?
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton, we will continue to examine who will be responsible for the ownerships of the lands through the recommendation report that will be coming forth.
Thank you. Thank you, Council, for all your contributions. I'm going to put Councillor Elgar's motion to a vote. Any objection? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, Councillor Elgar's motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Now, on to item 7 and 7.1. Council Bylaw 2024-166 has been replaced, but the content of it will be clear from what Councillor Nanda has to offer on this file. And I'm going to wait for the hall to clear, and when it does, we will turn the floor over to Councillor Nanda, and she will read the substitute measure for 7.1. Councillor Nanda, are you ready? You have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. So an amendment has been made through the zoning bylaw for 7.1 that was proposed and put forth to the council to accept. Do we need to read it? Okay. So item 7.1, recommendation report zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision Sherburne Lodge Developments Limited, 382 Burnham Thorpe Road West, that the zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision application submitted by Sherburne Lodge Developments Limited, as revised and further modified, be approved in part on the basis that the application is consistent with the 2024 provincial planning statement, conforms or does not conflict with all applicable provincial plans, conforms with the Region of Halton official plan and North Oakville East Secondary Plan, has regard for matters of provincial interest, and represents good planning for the reasons outlined in the report from the Planning Services Department dated November 26, 2024. So the bylaw 2024-166, an amendment to zoning bylaw 2009-189 as amended, be modified to defer consideration of special provision 8.135 and 8.136 in section 2, amendment to holding provisions 9.3.54 and new holding provision 9.3.64 in section 3 of the bylaw, and the rezoning of the land subject to those provisions, special provisions as shown on Schedule A2 draft zoning bylaw 2024-166 to a later date, but otherwise be passed. That the Director of Planning Services be authorized to grant draft plan approval to the revised draft plan of subdivision, noted in there, prepared by Bosefields, Inc., dated October 23rd, 2024, subject to the conditions contained in Appendix C of the staff report prepared by Planning Services Department dated November 26, 2024, and further subject to modifications to warning clauses, if necessary, related to the potential range of development on adjacent lands, that once 24T-21008/1319 has been draft approved by the Director of Planning and Development, the town enter into a subdivision agreement to the satisfaction of the CAO and town solicitor or designates. That notice of council's decision reflects that council has fully considered all the written and oral submissions relating to this matter, and that those comments have been appropriately addressed, that in accordance with Section 34(17) of the Planning Act, no further notice is determined to be necessary, and that consideration of urban design requirements related to the land subject to the deferred special provisions be brought forward in conjunction with the deferred zoning bylaw amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Council, the main change here is inserting a specification that warning clauses are wanted, and of course, we, if necessary, and that is a standard desire of all of us and many a planning matter. And the other thing is that the report that was circulated publicly contemplated changes north of Street C and south of the new William Halton Parkway that were felt to be premature by the ward councillors, and they're being appropriately deferred. And then in item 7, the difference there is that actually there's no change in item 7. So the changes are as I've just outlined to try to help you. And if you have further questions, planning staff and legal are available. Otherwise, in the absence of questions, Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you for that. I'm just wondering if staff can maybe speak to what the expected timelines are around the completion of the plan for all of that area on both sides of Burnham Thorpe.
O'Meara. Sorry. Through you, Mayor Burton, to Councillor O'Meara. Staff are intending to bring back the Niagara Core review with its associated OPA in January of next year.
Okay, so this isn't a long-term thing then. This referral will be dealt with in the next 6 months. Then is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Wait, did you say 6 months? Sooner than that, let's hope. The next few weeks, let's say. Any objection to Councillor Nanda's motion? Madam Clerk, there being none seen, that's carried. Thank you, Councillor Nanda. On 7.2, we have a similar substitution, and Councillor Xie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item 7.2, recommendation report. That's the official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan for subdivision application submitted by Eno Investment Limited and Ankara Realty Limited. File number Z1317.07 24T 21007 1317 as revised. And further modification be approved in part of the basic that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms or does not conflict with the applicable provincial plans, conforms with the region of Halton official plan and the North Oakville East secondary plan, and regarding for matters for provincial interest and represent good planning for the reasons outlined in the report from the Planning Service Department dated November 26, 2024. That bylaw 2024-170, a bylaw to adopt an official plan amended to 1984 Oakville official plan as it's applied to 210 and 374 Burnasop Road West, Eno Investment Limited and Ankara Real Estate be modified at this time to removed refers to height in draft OPA 334, relocate the active note and deleted and modify NUC destination, and that staff be directed to bring the amended bylaw to the council meeting on December 16, 2024. That bylaw 2024-172 amended to zoning bylaw 2009-189 as amended be deferred to the council meeting of December 16, 2024, and that staff be directed to remove the special provision 8.138, 8.139, and 8.140 in Section 2 of the bylaw associate amendment of holding provincial 9.3.54 and the zoning the land subject to those special provisions shown on Schedule A to draft zoning bylaw 2024-172. That's the balance of the official plan and the zoning bylaw amendment application be deferred for consideration in conjunction with the ongoing Niagara Urban Core review process. That the Director of Planning Service be authorized to grant draft plan approved to the revised draft plan of subdivision prepared by Cossack Urban Plan dated November 1st, 2024, subject to the condition contained in Appendix D of the staff report prepared by Planning Service Department dated November 26, 2024, and the future subject to modification of warning clause, if necessary, related to the potential range of development on adjacent land following adoption of the official plan amendment refer to the Resolution 2. That one's 24T-21007-1717 has been draft approved by Director of Planning and Development. The town enter into subdivision agreement to satisfaction of CAO and the town auditors of a designate. The notice of council decision reflects that council has fully considered all the written and the oral submissions relating to this matter, and those comments have been appreciatedly addressed. That in accordance with Section 2317 of the Planning Act, no further notice is determined to be necessary. That consideration of urban design requirements related to the land subject to the deferred special provisions to be brought forward in conjunction with the deferred zoning bylaw and amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Xie. Members of council, do you have questions or comments? May I put the vote? All those, any opposed to Councillor Xie's motion? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, that carries. Thank you, Councillor Shipp. I believe we turn, I hope now, to 7.3. And I recognize Councillor Adams, who has a referral motion.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to staff who've met with Councillor Luschina and I to speak about this item at some length and review the item, answer our questions, and all those things. We have a referral motion that we'd like to bring forward, and it's been circulated to members of council, but I'll read it for members of the public, and that is that one, that the report zoning bylaw amendment, Mattamy Joshua Creek Limited, Bressa DUC bylaw 2024-184, file number Z1308-05, be referred back to staff to discuss the following with the applicant. A, increasing the separation distances between the proposed buildings and the properties along Amon Crescent. B, enhancing landscaping along the northern property line. C, reducing and or redistributing the height and floor area of the proposed buildings. And D, reorienting proposed buildings further west and south on the subject lands. And 2, that staff report back to the January 2025 Planning Development Council meeting. I'd appreciate council's support of this. I think it would be helpful in providing some options to improve the transition between this site and the site to the north of it.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Council, questions, debate, discussion? May I call the vote? Any objection to the motion by Councillor Adams? Madam Clerk, there being no objection, that carries. Thank you, Councillor Adams. Now, Council, we come now to item 8. That's a confidential item. I have a resolution prepared if you want to go into council. When I reviewed the report, it struck me that you might be content to pass in public that staff be authorized to proceed as they advise in the report. I need a motion one way or the other. Councillor O'Meara.
Your Worship, I'm sorry, I've got some questions on it.
Well.
So I would like to move to go into closed session.
All righty. Then moved by Councillor O'Meara. Yeah, sure. As a matter of fact, we could get the balance of the public items, which is 4.2, and the advisory committee, receipt of the advisory committee minutes before we go into camera. And that way, no one will be required to wait for an unknown amount of time to see the outcome of those items. Councillor O'Meara, do you mind standing down for this? Thank you. Councillor Elgar, you have an amendment to move.
Yeah, my amendment's just a little bit longer than Nav Nanda's and Councillor Shee's, but it goes like this. That the information regarding the affordability of a 3-bedroom household be included in the report for the Housing Strategy and Action Plan report.
May I think you probably all are in support of that. Can I put the vote? Any objection to Councillor Elgar's amendment? Madam Clerk, there being none seen, it carries. Thank you, Councillor Elgar.
Motion as amended.
Yes, and so now, who wants to move the main motion as amended? Perhaps Councillor Elgar. Any objection to the main item 4.2 as amended? There being none, congratulations, Councillor Elgar. You're successful 2 times in a row. Council, it is desired by Councillor O'Meara and moved by him that we go into a session closed to the public as these matters may be considered in the absence of the public under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act because the item deals with litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Is there any objection to the motion? Madam Clerk, there being no objection seen, that's carried. And Council, as we know from long experience, it will take a while before the technology has adjusted to a meeting thus described. And so I recommend that you take a 5-minute break while the staff prepare the necessary arrangements. We're in recess.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Welcome back. Council has met in a session closed to the public under the authority of the Municipal Act because the item dealt with litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Councillor O'Meara, would you give us the motion that staff be authorized to proceed in the appeals filed by Palermo Village Corporation, 819655 Ontario Limited, and Enorox Dundas 3015 Inc., in accordance with the report from the legal department dated December 3rd?
Happy to. That subject to the issues identified in the report from the legal department dated November 26, 2024, being resolved in satisfaction of the Commissioner of Community Development and the town solicitor designates that staff be authorized to.
Councillor,
Wrong
no,
one?
Just the part I read out.
Oh, sorry about that. I don't have that with me.
That's why I read it for you.
Perfect. Could you
That
read
part stays in camera.
Okay, you got me confused a little bit there.
I accept your motion. I apologize for, but you know, we didn't want that part in public. Any objection to the truncated motion? Madam Clerk, there's no objection. I declare it carried. Council, we need a mover for the receipt of the Heritage Oakville Advisory Committee minutes from its meeting of November 26th. Councillor McNeice, thank you for that. Any objection? There being none, Madam Clerk, that carries. And it's now in order for a motion to rise and report. And let me just check with the clerk before I say that. Yes. Councillor Lischina, thank you for the motion to rise and report. Any objection? That carries. I rise and report that the Committee of the Whole has met and has made recommendations on consent items 4.1 through 4.8, confidential consent items 5.1 and 5.2, public hearing item 6.1, discussion items 7.1, 7.2, and 7.3, confidential discussion item 8.1, and advisory committee item 9.1. It would be in order now for a mover and seconder to adopt the report. Councillor Knoll and Councillor Nanda, thank you. Any objection? There being none, the report is approved and adopted. And now we come to new business of an emergency, congratulatory, or condolence nature. Councillor Haslett-Deal.
Two items to share, Mayor Burton. First, I want to just an early congratulations to the professional Oakville firefighters for the drive-through that they are going to do on Friday night. It is always a fantastic event. The generosity of our community is phenomenal. You get to see the great lights in the Coronation Park. So I just want to express, on behalf, I'm sure, all of the rest of council, thank you to them for all their effort to bring some joy to others and to enable others to bring joy as well. And my other congratulatory is I just want to express that thanks to the We Love Oakville people. They have got great information out about the transit-oriented community to help inform the public about the events that are planned virtually on Tuesday night as well as on Thursday. And I encourage everybody to visit the We Love Oakville website for more information.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duddick?
Thank you. Through your worship, just to dovetail on what Councillor Haslett-Deal had mentioned with the drive-through, just want to thank our park staff, Frank Amaral and the gang, who do an absolutely phenomenal job providing the lighting. They did an excellent job at Westwood Square again. Don't know how they do it, but it's just outstanding.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Councillor. You speak for all of us on that, I'm sure. Well, Council, it's now in order for a mover and seconder to consider and read the bylaws. And Councillor Shi and Councillor Grant, you were first out the gate that I could see. That's my cover statement for that. Any objection to their motion? There being none, we have adopted 6 bylaws as listed in the agenda: 2024-166, 174, 175, 176, 177, and 189, the confirmatory bylaw. And they are read, considered, and passed. That ends the work that we had to do together this evening. We are in the middle of a very busy council and holiday season. I extend the best wishes of the season to everyone. Council, it's been terrific working with you, and it looks like we'll have a lot of other opportunities later this week. And that ends this meeting. Good night.